Well, welcome to episode 65 of the Georgee Patty Show. I am Georgie.
And I am Patty.
And it is Friday, which means it is weekly review day. So today we're going to share kind of our learnings, reflections, thoughts for the week. And we absolutely invite you to share yours in the chat because the more engaged you are, the funner this is for all of us. It's my thoughts anyway. And
yes.
Since you're PowerPoint
I'm
control
the slide driver.
Slide driver, drive the slides. Drive the slides.
Right. Here we go.
That's right. That's right.
Look at that work of art that my talented partner created.
Look at that. Our quote of the day. So you can't outsource excellence. You have to do the work. This is from Georgee Itzler, who you guys have heard me talk about before. And this has kind of been my theme for the week, at least anyway. So that's why it is our quote of the day. I think often we're looking for, shortcuts and hacks and all those kinds of things. And the reality is there are none in life, really. And we can't outsource doing the work that we need to do, particularly our own inner work. It would be so great. I was thinking that this week, God, I wish I could take that and just get someone else to do it and just give it back to me. It would be fabulous when it's completed. And, that's just not the case. So here we are. Which brings me to the storms of life. I feel like the last couple weeks for me have been challenging. Life often dishes up some stuff that can be unexpected and it can be hard. And it's just like, man, can I just get a tiny little bit of a break sometimes, And it's really kind of brought to light that life is always going to give us things that are challenging and things we wish didn't happen. And it comes down to how do we show up in these situations? And I think often we look at these things as sometimes it's, who do I want to be and how am I going to show up? And we think that path into moving into, I want to be a certain way is easy. And it's not. And I think sometimes we just have to be okay with recognizing that when we're kind of in the middle of this storm, it's hard and it's hard work and it sucks. And sometimes we just kind of get smacked and smacked and smacked and smacked. And it's like, okay, but eventually we will come out the other side. And I think it's that awareness of, like, this is what I've noticed for me this week particular of just, okay, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? Okay, it's there. And right now I'm a crying puddle on the floor, but it's okay. I'm going to move to something else, and we just keep moving. And not being, so overcome or overwhelmed by the challenges that show up and, being able to create enough of that space to go, okay, it's okay. Right now, I'm a bit of a mess. And in 5 minutes, I might not be. And then I might be, and then I won't be. But it's that consistency of moving forward and just accepting that this is part of the journey. It's part of the process. It's just like in our businesses, right? Some days it's going great. And then it's like, what the heck am I thinking? Why am I putting myself through this torture? And you feel again, like you're kind of surfing, but you've been just caught underneath the wave over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't know, I don't even know if I can do this. And it's just recognizing that this is one little moment in this big long journey. And it goes back to that thing of, never quit on a good day, ever. You can't quit on a good day. Or never quit on a bad day. Never quit on a bad day. It's going to change, right? So I just think sometimes we try to gloss over things and we ignore that life gives us some crap sometimes. We don't die in the chair, right? Never quit on a bad day. So welcome to life. Welcome to stormy life. So with that, so there is Mr. Georgee Itzler there in the red shirt. So I think I've told you guys I'm in this 30-day mentorship thing. And these are my 3 mentors for the next 30 days. They might not look like your average mentors, but these are my 3 mentors. So this week, it's really been, for me, all about committing, planning, and executing. And so when I look at this, I'm like, okay, 30 days, it's 30 days of excellence. And then I'm looking back over, you know, in the work that Patty and I are doing, in the buckets of my life, you know, that I often talk about, like in my relationships and my health and my work, and noticing, am I really fully committed? Am I really all in? And I'm like, nope. Like if I sit down and I be honest with myself, and I think, I'm like, okay, I could blame it on, oh, stormy life or whatever, you know, but the reality is, no, I need to look and go, am I playing all out? Am I all in? Am I fully committed? And the answer, for me, was no. So then I'm like, okay, am I willing to make the commitment? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in this thing, but I've got, so 30 days, am I willing to commit to excellence just for 30 days and see what happens? So yes. So then comes in the plan that we're going to create and the execution. And as it happens, yesterday I was watching something called Cool Conversations, which Kenton Cool, who's one of probably the best mountaineers in the world, maybe. Anyway, he does these conversations, and he had this fellow on by the name of Georgee Patty. I'd never heard of Georgee before. And as I'm watching this thing, and so Georgee is also a mountaineer. He's done Everest like a lot of times. He's a really good mountaineer, and he's also a wingsuit base jumper guy. And the thing about Georgee is, and even Kenton was saying this, he's like, he goes, you're not the most skilled guy. You're not like one of the most elite mountaineers. He even said he wasn't one of the most elite wingsuiters, but he is probably one of the top 10 in the world. But what Georgee was saying was, he goes, if I train hard enough, I can overcome my lack of natural talent and ability. And I think this really applies to us in our business too. Like often we look at things and we think, well, I'm just not good at talking to people. I'm just not good at doing presentations. I'm just not good at, doing sales calls or making PowerPoint slides or those kinds of things. And I think this comes back to that commitment thing. Am I willing to commit to training, to getting better, to putting in the time to learn and to practice? Because I believe this statement here too. I really believe that I can do anything I really set my mind to, but I have to be willing to put in the time to do the training. So all of my slides this morning are really from the things I learned from Georgee, who I'd never heard of until yesterday. But it just resonated with everything that this plan, commit, execute thing. So the next one is, there he is wingsuiting. Confidence comes from the amount of time you put into something, which I'm like, this makes sense. So when he wanted to learn to transition from mountaineering to wingsuit flying, I know, right? What he basically disappeared for like 4 years, 5 years. People didn't even know where he was. They're like, where is he? He's not showing up at Everest this year. Like, where is he? He went to, I believe it was Switzerland, found the best wingsuit people trainers, and spent 4 years learning. He put a ridiculous amount of time into learning how to do something. And so I often think we do this in our business too. We think things are going to come quickly. We think it's going to come overnight. And when we're feeling that lack of confidence, the more we practice something, we get better. And as we get better, we notice that our confidence starts to increase. And I thought this was such a fabulous example of time, process, the journey, right? Again, what do you want to master? What are you willing to commit to get better at? And recognize the more time that you put into something, the more time you spend reaching out to people, the more time you spend practicing those conversations, the more time you're willing to risk failing and getting knocked down and just getting back up every single time, your skill is going to increase, and so will your confidence. Next one is, if you have a vision, make a plan and commit to the plan. There really is no limit to what you can achieve. And I thought, God, this fits so well with what I'm learning in the other thing over there, you know? There must be something to it. And I think, and I've been saying this to Patty this week or last few weeks or whatever, because we've actually been putting more structures in place. We've actually been like creating plans that go beyond today. And I'm like, you know, this plan thing is kind of working for me. Like, I realize when I actually have the plan and I commit to following it, it's easier. I have more time. I know what I'm going to do. And then I look at like our, the systems that we create and the work that we do with our clients. And I'm like, when they have a plan and they commit to it, it's easier to follow as well. So I encourage you to look at, when you think about your business, and this is why we often talk about, you know, what is it that I really want? What do I want my life to look like? How do I want to be in this? What's really going to work for me? Is when I can create that vision and then go, okay, what are the steps that are going to help me do that? And often the steps can change because sometimes there's variables that come in and we don't know what we don't know, and that, you know, we're willing to do the experimentation and to see what shows up. But I think it's committing to doing those experiments, taking that action, creating the plan. One of the things that we have a challenge in our 30 Days of Excellent Things right now is that every night we write our plan for the next day. So just for tomorrow, what does my day look like? You know, I get up at 5, I work out at 6, I, you know, have a shower at 7, whatever it is, and just list it out. And then I just execute that little plan for tomorrow. I'm doing the show, I'm having a webinar, working with clients, whatever it is. But it can start really small, but which for me, because I can get overwhelmed a bit if the details are too big, but I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do that and see how it works. So again, just things keep cementing or showing up for me. So I'm like, I guess I might want to pay attention and listen. And then the next one he had, which I thought this was really, really good. So this is kind of his thing for basically making anything happen. And he really believes that, that anything is possible, anything is figure outable. Literally, I'm looking at this guy and I'm watching him do the interview. And like I said, I'd never even heard of him before until yesterday. And I'm like, man, this guy is awesome. He's like sunshine. Like, I just felt like so inspired. I think I've shared it on like any way possible I can share it. So if you're into this kind of thing, it's a pretty cool interview. Okay, so here's how you do this. Number 1 is train with the right people. So he's relating this to how he does what he does, but I'm like, this applies to us in our businesses. This applies to me, right? Who are the people that I am surrounding myself with? Who are the people that are, that I've jumped into helping me train and get better, and, you know, as a human, as in business, with my different skills? Who are the people? So it's really important to make sure that those are the right people for you. Because if you want to be, let's say, a really great speaker, I want to do a TED Talk and I want to be a really great speaker. If I'm being trained by the baker down the street, probably not the right person, right? Like, we want to make sure we're surrounded by the right people to help us get wherever we need to go. I can remember when I was doing my the Everest Base Camp trek, and I was like, okay, I'm not sure physically I'm ready for this, you know? So my trainer that I got was someone who was experienced training elite athletes. I'm like, he's gonna know, he's my right people. So it's really important to get the right people when you're wanting to learn something. Next is have the right resources. And we talk about this a lot. What I think about this in business, as opposed when we're doing programs and we're buying different, you know, things that we're going to move our business to the next level. If we're not sure exactly where we're going, often we're buying the wrong resource to help us get where we want to go. or at the wrong time, right? So it's really important to have the right resources in place that are going to help you figure things out. And we often talk a lot about, we're taking, as a level 1 business, we're taking advice or training from level 3 businesses. That's not going to be the right resource for us at this particular time with where we are right now. So it's really important to know that and then get the right resources for you. Next piece is break it down into small steps. And I was like, of course, right? So I've got the big thing, I know where I'm going, and then I need to just break that down into all the tiny little steps to get there. And I'm thinking about, because we're doing this webinar later this morning, and I'm like, look at all our little steps. We've taken this whole big thing that we do, and we literally break it down into this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece. So this applies not only to your business, it can go to like your fitness or your relationships. Break everything down into tiny little steps that'll help you get where you want to go. And then when you have that, you can then build the system. And again, I think about our funnel bridge thing that we create, right? It's like, here's all the pieces. Now, how do I take all my components and put them into the system that's going to work? Because often, if I put them in the wrong place, my system's not going to work as well either, right? So it's creating that system. And then once I have the system all in place, then I need to follow the system. And often this is where I can get stuck a lot of times. I get all excited, I got the steps, I build the system, and then I don't execute. I'm not executing the system. And then I'm like, why isn't this working? Because I should probably go and do this and go and do that. And I'm like, not coming back to the system. And on the call that I had the other night with my mentor dudes, they were doing this race. It was like a 85-mile race or something. And so they figured out what they were going to do, when they wanted to finish, and they came down and they were going to run 6 miles, walk 4 miles. That was the plan. That was the system they were going to follow. About halfway through, Jesse's like, hey, why don't we do 5 and 5? And so Chad, the other guy, he's like, why would we do that? We have a system. We built the system. We know the system works. Unless you can give me a really good reason as to why we should change the system, we're going to follow the system. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like me. I can be going along, following the system. It's working really great. And then I'm like, why don't I just do something else now? Oh, bright, shiny object. Oh, I have a new idea. Instead of knowing and following the system that's going to get me the results that I know that I want. So really important piece here. And like I say, again, these things just keep showing up for me. And I'm like, oh, nice reminder, Georgie. Are you listening? So then when we follow the system, it's really, really important to have that support team. Have those people who can be there, just like Chad and Jesse, and say, why are you changing the system? Why aren't you just following the system? Where are you getting stuck? How can I help you as you follow the system? And I think that's one of the great things that we have with our clients is we've broken this thing down into steps. We've built this system. We know this system works. And then we can see where, people tend to get stuck. And the biggest thing that helps you move when you're getting stuck is to have a support team. Have people that can be there and hold you accountable and put you back on track before you get so far off track that, I'm starting over again. And all that work was for nothing. So having that support team and the right support team, really, 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 really important. And I think sometimes we don't put enough thought into who we're choosing as our support people. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people, but it's really, really important to make sure you have the people on your support team who are going to support you in where you want to go and who are on board with the goals that you have for yourself and are aligned with your values and what you believe so that they can give you the support that you need. And so that pretty much is how you can figure out anything. You can just take these little steps and then everything can be figure outable, which I thought, man, this is so, so cool. So after I watched this interview, of course, I put on there and I messaged to Kenton Cool, who does the thing, and I'm like, this was so amazing, it was so awesome, I love it. And then of course I go to find this Joby dude, and I'm like, where is he on social media? I find him, and I'm like, hey, I had no idea who you were until today, and I just got to say, I watched this and you were awesome. And then I'm like, actually, you're kind of like sunshine. So if you want to know what I say to people, this is literally what I say to people. And whether he responds or doesn't respond doesn't really matter, but it's just like, I think it's really important to let people know when they inspire you or impact you in a way, and not be attached to whether they respond. Because this was, like I say, this has been a theme for the last couple weeks, and I was like, okay, it's really, really time to commit, plan, and execute. So those have been sort of my biggest learnings for the week. And then my question for you is that if you have this vision and you have this business and you want to make a difference in the world and you feel like your work can do that, then I'm going to encourage you to, for the next 30 days, just 30 days, is to make that commitment to actually fully being all in to building and growing this thing and figuring out what you need to do it. Because every single day that you are not committed, you're just going backwards. Ask me how I know. Every single time that I am not and really fully committed. And I think we know when we're not committed, and it's easy just to look like we are, but we know when we look in the mirror whether we're committed to or not. So I'm encouraging you that, magic can happen in the next 30 days for you if you're willing to full on commit to this thing that you're building. And then create your plan and then execute your plan. And you can share this stuff in the cozy office space. You can ask for support. We can encourage each other for the next 30 days to okay, how's it going? What are you doing? What do you need? But let's really, really commit to, bringing our purposes to life in the next 30 days. And then I have a permission slip for you, because this is going to happen, is that when you fall down, that you have permission to recommit and start again. Because this is where sometimes one of those little waves of life is going to come in and knock you off the surfboard, and then you get to decide, am I going to stand back up? I'm going to recommit today, and I'm going to go again, because it's going to happen. So if you need permission to start over, you got it. So these have been my learnings. I hope that you will commit and join me, because I like the accountability and the support of not feeling like it's just me over here getting knocked off and getting back on and, doing all of those things, because it happens, and I have great days where I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, now I'm back again. So those are my learnings, and I hope that you will play along. That's what I got.
That is so awesome. I think we've said this before on the show. I'm going to say it again right now. Georgie and I do not conspire to put this presentation together. We show up and figure out what the other person is talking about. Like this morning, we were talking about the webinar before we got on the call today. We were not talking about this particular presentation, and wouldn't you have it, what came up for me this week was all around commitment too. which is just serendipitous, I guess. I don't know, but or maybe it's because we're just on the same journey kind of together, at least in this this particular venture. But I am not somebody who is good at commitment, big on commitment, terribly committed. That's the large number of X's. Yeah, this is what came up today. For me this morning, I had a really rough day yesterday. Georgie knows all about that. She got to see me at my worst. And my commitment was really kind of wavering. It was just like you talked earlier about, don't quit on a bad day and having a bad day. And there are days where it's just feels like it's all too much. And that was my world yesterday. And this morning, I kind of woke up with a new sense of commitment. I was half asleep last night, and I started reading this new book because what else do you do when you're half asleep? Go to bed early because you're tired? No. You read a book. And it was a question about, it's like, what would you do? What would you do in order, what would you do in the next 30 days to succeed, or something like that? Very similar question to what Georgee was asking. And I think that question kind of sat with me overnight. It's kind of like, okay, if I really, 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 really want to make this work, what does that look like? And I woke up with a new renewed sort of sense of commitment today. A few things became pretty clear to me this week, that I'm invested in this thing. This thing that we're doing together is the thing I want to do. When I look at this plans that Georgee was talking about, I'm like, that's the business I want. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do, I had a opportunity to talk to a potential client earlier this week about a project, and it's just like, I just felt it, like, just full on, I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do this kind of work anymore. I want to do what I'm doing with Georgee. So yeah, we asked this question. This slide comes from our very first episode of this Georgee and Patty show thing. It's like, if you're going to be all in, be all in. Good time to clarify your mission, your purpose, your why, your values. None of that has changed for me. None of that's changed. And to have the conviction of the value of your service and how it's useful, valuable, and necessary right now. That was my little note in my journal this morning. It's like, let the happy client comments sink in. It's the happy clients that decide whether or not what you're doing is valuable. And that's kind of where I was at this morning, was this thing with commitment. It made me think of this, if you've ever heard this poem, this Groundhog Day poem, that this came to mind for me today, and I'm going to share it with you. Perhaps you need the reminder, perhaps you've never heard of it before, but this is awesome. And this is a poem about personal growth and development. See if you can relate. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down another street. This action's accidentally posted as bold, and I thought it fit. Anyhow, this is by someone named Portia Nelson. I'd heard it a number of times, did not know what the attribution was, but this is what Groundhog Day feels like to me, is just this recognition. I've been here before. I've been here before. I've been here before. And it's frustrating. It is frustrating when you find yourself in that place. And that's the place I was in yesterday. Been here before. Which led to another realization for me, is that this is my pattern. I have an idea. I try it. Gather some data, evaluate the data, and improve it. This is my pattern. This is what I do. This is actually what Georgee and I teach our clients to do too. This is for those of us who are drawn to innovation and creativity and making things better and making change and being, bringing our work into the world and constantly learning and improving and getting better. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is how I am built. It's never going to stop. Georgie and I were on a call yesterday at, I don't know, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I don't even know what the hell time it was. Talking about the program that we offer and how we do it. And we came up with new ideas to make it better. And I'm like, stop with the ideas already. We need to put it in a box. And it's just like, it's never going to be in a box. As long as I am living and breathing, it is going to continue to change and improve and get better, because this is how I am built. And then when you know it, this morning we're on the call and we're like, we made yet another change. But it's all good. It's all good. And then, like, my Groundhog Day recognition for this week to share with the world is this little, do you see the little arrow here? This is important little arrow, is that this is a continuous cycle of improvement. It is not scrap it all and start over. This is my whole. And I realized I have been scrapping everything and starting over for nearly 10 years. That's my pattern. It's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do something completely different. But kind of like how Steve Jobs says, the stones only make sense when you look backwards and see how the path is. There's nothing that I'm doing that is different from when I started in 2011. I had this idea that I wanted to help people like me be self-employed successfully, get the support that they need to do this, to move forward, and all of that. It's been through a million different iterations, but it's the same stuff. It is always the same stuff. It just gets better and better and better. So that is, that's my share for this week. And would love to hear questions, comments, observations, learnings that you have learned yourself.
Yes, exactly. I love it how, like I say, it's always like our things are so in sync, and we just literally don't know it. Like, I did my slides last night. I haven't even looked at this thing till this morning, like till right now. I'm seeing Patty's slides with you live. It's just, yeah, I love it. I love that we're in the same messed up place.
I wrote mine out in my journal this morning when I was away from my computer. I sit down to make the slides and I laugh my ass off when I saw what you had.
So funny. It is so funny. I love this. I definitely bought the wrong resources most of 2019. Some wrong for me at any time and others wrong for me at this stage in my business. Yeah, it happens, right? It happens. And I think we're going to continue to make those mistakes. I think to think that we're not is not that realistic. It's just that can we make less of them is the thing, right? Yeah. So yeah. So if you guys want to share what you learned this week, I see someone had to go here. They've got a thing. They'll see us at the workshop, which is great. But yeah, what did you guys learn this week? What were your reflections? Are you in the same holes that we're in?
Oh, and it's totally okay if you're not. We'd love to hear people.
Yeah, we love, exactly. Because I think it's really inspiring to hear where people are at and what you've learned. And we've talked about this a lot, about how this period of reflection is really, really useful. Like, I really think sometimes we're moving so quickly, and it's just kind of next thing, and we're not taking the time to really reflect and look at, where am I? Is this really where I want to be? Am I showing up in the way that I want to show up? That's always a big one for me, right? It's like, what do I want? And, am I showing up in the way that I want to be? And if not, then what am I going to do about it? It would be so nice if other people could just fix themselves so I wouldn't have to look at me. But the reality is, it's always back to, what am I going to do about me? Because that's the only thing I have control over. And I think that's part about this commitment thing, right? It's recommitting to myself. you know, and finding those internal places within me that has nothing to do with anything happening outside of me. And that's a really powerful place to be when we can get there. And it's not always easy. That's for sure. So yeah, if anyone on Facebook, I'm just looking at our Facebook thing here. We've got some people over here. If you guys have anything you want to share, I am paying attention to what you've learned this week, how the week went for you, what you learned, all those good things. Then please feel free to share. And if you want, you can also share in our comfy office space over there. We are doing our best to be a little more interactive over there. You will start to see more activity coming your way in there, because it really is about community and being surrounded with people kind of doing the same things. I was going to say like-minded, and I heard a thing the other day where someone was saying, you don't really want to be around like-minded people. I was like, where are you going with this? And he's like, you want people also that have their own opinions and maybe a different perspective than you have, because that's really the only way we learn and grow. And I was like, oh, that's such a good point. And I think when Patty and I talk about like the community we want to build, and we really talk about everybody is their own unique puzzle piece, which means you don't come in with the exact same thoughts and opinions that we have. But it's creating that space where it's safe enough and comfortable enough to share. Oh, actually, I see it like this, or I see it like this, because I really do believe that is where the growth happens. If we're always just with people that only see things the way we see things, I think we can miss out on a lot.
Perspective is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's so good.
Often, I don't know if I've probably stolen this from somebody, but this idea that, you know, if you're in a meeting with someone and you're agreeing on everything, like one of you is superfluous, right? It's like, what's the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of my best conversations are conversations where, you know, there's two different perspectives, or people see things that I didn't see, and I was like, oh, okay. Or, you know, those are the best conversations, and especially when they're coming from, it's not coming from like this righteous kind of place, but it's a real conversation and dialogue. And that's what I would think for me are like those real, you know, meaningful conversations. We're not just talking about the weather, but it's like, you know, it's like, whoo, open my mind. I love that so much. Okay, let's see.
So we have some learnings further up the chat.
Oh, there we go. I missed those. Okay, here we go. What I learned this week. When I asked for recommendations of my sales conversations using Georgee and Patty's bridge assessment, people are willing to give me lovely testimonials. Awesome.
Nice.
Amazing. And then if I'm clear on who I am looking to get referrals to, people will provide me with a great referral. Yeah.
Specificity is a wonderful, wonderful thing. The clearer you can be with a request, the more people can understand that, the easier it is for them to fulfill it. And when you ask for referrals, it's like that start off with, can you send me anybody? It's like, there's not enough to go on. So great learning.
Great learning. Yeah, there's power in clarity. And if I connect people to people who can help them, they will connect people with me. Yes.
Somebody's got networking figured out.
Exactly. It's funny in that Joby interview, he's done a bunch of like Netflix shows and National Geographic shows and all that kind of stuff too. And Kenton was asking him, he's like, how do you get these deals? Like, how do you make this happen? Like, how does it work for you? He goes, well, I always go in and I want to know, what will this do for them? How can I help them? And I think when we have that approach, it's always easier. Like we talk about this in business, right? It's about being of service. It's about providing value to people, not just like be my client, but how can I actually serve you? you know, and it's like, yeah. And he goes, and then I just collect the no's, because he goes, and someone will say yes eventually. But even the no's, I'm going in with, you know, how can I help you? Is this a fit for you? If this isn't a fit for you, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just thought, and it's clearly it's his work from, like, say, he's done a ton of really randomly weird shows and stuff like that too. But it's that ability to care about other people, to nurture the relationships, to see how you can help first. So important. Okay, did I miss anything else? Oh, someone has to get their car fixed. You know what this is? I love this, right? So she's having car problems. She's in the middle of having her car towed because it won't start. And she took the time to say, sorry, I can't make your show today. I'll be at the workshop, but sorry, I can't make your show today. Like, this is people stuff, you know? That's really cool. Like,
yeah, this is probably a really good time to talk about that.
Oh, probably is a very good time.
That we do have our webinar coming up today. Now, if you're watching the recording, it's probably happened in the past. Because it's starting in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's okay, because you can get the recording or sign up for the next one or something. So if you're watching this and you're going, oh, sounds like you're doing something really cool, we are. And if you're in the comfy, cozy office space, we're going to be live streaming it there, assuming that the technical systems work for us. We will be creating a recording, so if you sign up for it, you can get the recording for it. Love to see you there live, but we had a couple of comments in the chat about people like, oh, I hope to make it there, but I'm not going to be able to. We will be recording. We'll get the recording out. Just have to register to get that. Yeah, that's coming up in 45 minutes. And seems we are kind of run out of comments in the chat. Might just be a good time to dismiss class early. Yes, we will be recording it. Yes, we will be recording it. The recording will go out. So yes, and we're going to yes, and I will send the link via email. So if you're on our email list, you will get the information via email. So yes, I will get it to you for sure.
It's a make sure, right? Oh, I love it. I
love that. Love that.
Notebook.
That we love it. It's like, yes, I want the recording. That's how we want people to be. Exactly. About the things that we offer, that they really, really want to be here, want to get the recordings, want to hear from us, that kind of thing. We're not for everybody, and we're delighted that we are for the people who like hanging out with us.
Exactly. I love this. I have just realized I have nearly a filled notebook with notes from the Georgee Patty show.
Awesome. We've heard that before.
That's awesome.
That is super awesome. Super awesome.
Yeah, it's important that we're providing value. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing those comments. We really, really appreciate them.
Yes. And we will be back. We'll be back on the show Monday, same bat time, same bat channel, and on the webinar, which is at a different link. In 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Have a wonderful day. Maybe see you soon. Maybe see you Monday.
That's right. Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.